All right. So welcome, ladies. We have another one for you, a Pink Bow experience, bringing you the stories of powerful women, because it is important to share our stories, and that's what we are here for. We want to share our stories. We want to empower the generations of women that are here now, in the next generation. So today we have the beautiful Dominique Tate-Williams, and she is going to be sharing her story. And she was sharing something with me right now. I was complimenting the picture in the background. And I was like, oh, it reminds me of Puerto Rico. And she was just sharing some of that background story. And I think it's important for us to hear stories like this because it gives us so many good tips. So Dominique, can you like tell us like how this beautiful picture came to be?
Yeah, so my husband Carlos and I went to Guatemala in April of this year, and we traveled around to some of the little small towns around Lake Atipan. I can't even remember what stuff is called, but so we were in a little small town, and we were preparing to leave the next day to go wherever our next stop was, and we were in a small it was a 2-table restaurant, and the couple at the other table, they started a conversation with us, and the lady Liliana was from Guatemala, and she married a guy from the States. I think his name was Mark, and they were like, oh, do you want to come over to our house tomorrow? And so they invited us over for breakfast, and I was telling Liz Marie that my husband and I were looking at each other like, is it okay? Is it okay?
The secret wink.
Yes, like, it's okay. And so I was like, well, we don't, how would we get there? And the guy was like, oh, we'll come pick you up. And so just when you have conversations, are open to talking to people, you can end up in places like this. Their house is somewhere like in here, but it was maybe like a 3-minute walk from where this picture was taken. And they were like, oh, you ever come back, you can stay at our house for free.
That's beautiful. And I feel that there is like a part of our society that is understanding like the power of communication, but it's still not a minority. We are still like living a world that is very like, we are in our own little bubbles. We either like FaceTiming with people that we really know, or like in groups of people that we know, but we are not like opening ourselves to like the unknown, like different people, and learning about these different people, and just striking those conversations with strangers. And it's definitely an interesting thing, like we have lost that part of community in society.
Well, I mean, I agree, but especially in America, I think when I travel abroad, people are so much more friendly and into explaining to you how things work, or about their culture or their history. And I'm just always receptive to that, because I have a ton of stories about, sometimes it was making poor choices, I have to admit, especially back in
But
the day.
those are good too. Those
Yeah.
make juicy stories.
Oh yeah, riding in cars with boys in Cuba,
Love it.
Yeah.
Libertad.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing in Amsterdam. My best friend and I were there. So, I used to live in Spain. So my best friend came for like, or I guess the New Year, and we were in Amsterdam. And what we didn't know is that the buses stopped running at a certain time. So we're thinking we're getting the bus to the club, to save money, and we're like looking like, where, we don't see anything. And somebody in the street was like, oh, the buses aren't running. So it was like, how do we do this? And some random guy is like, I'll give you a ride. And my best friend and I like walked over to the side, and we conferred with each other. Like, what do you think? What do you think? And I was like, I think if we need to, we can take them. She's like, I think so too.
Help luck.
So he drove us to the club. We had a great time, and literally he was like, I mean, we paid him because this was
Mhm.
like his side hustle. And he was like, text me when you are ready to leave. He came back to pick us up. And a year later, for New Year's, he sent me a Happy New Year text.
How cute.
And it was just, he was,
He's on point with his
yes,
customer service.
yes, it was a year later. And I was like, that is so nice.
I love it. I love it. But you know, you are like 100% right about just like the United States versus other countries. Like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I was in the Dominican Republic. I was back home visiting my parents, and it's just so different. Like one of the things when I'm talking to my mom, because they living over there, my mom and dad are living over there. When I'm talking to them, I'm like, oh my God, it's so lonely here. It's like if you are not plugged into something or doing something, it's just like daily life can be so lonely. And I say this because over there, you wake up in the morning and you are hearing the sounds of people, like people, the kids going to school, like business people talking, like, you know, the trucks that sells like the yuca and all that, you hear live. And then when you step out of your house, it's like the neighbors are like, hey,
Right.
and everybody wants to strike a conversation. And it's like that when you travel to somewhere else, when you get in the public transportation, when you are Ubering, it's just like people do life together. And that is one of the things that I miss the most, like just everyday life, doing you just doing everyday life with somebody else. Like I don't even talk to my neighbors around here, let alone like recognize their faces if I see them in a crowded room.
Mhm. I mean, I live in a neighborhood with a lot of old people, so they're home and we talk.
Oh,
They keep me abreast of all the activity in the neighborhood.
ooh. And they be knowing the juicy stuff.
Every detail. This person bought this house, but they're renting it out to someone else and they're renting it on
Look.
Airbnb. I'm like, that's illegal, but that's helpful to know. But
Oh, so is the houses over there under what is
a
the
subdivision or a homeowner, no,
no.
no,
Okay.
but
So why
you know,
not
I'm an
go?
Airbnb host, right?
Hmm.
So I know that you're not supposed to be renting a place and using it on or then subletting it
Oh,
on Airbnb.
okay. So they not the owners, they not the primary owners. Oh
Right.
yes, they are trying to hustle the system.
Oh,
But
a lot of people do that.
low key, I'm not mad at it. That's
Oh, a lot of people. So you know, you remember I used to Uber drive. So
Mhm.
lots of stories there. And yeah, there were people, you know, you would drive into an apartment complex and they're renting, you know, somebody's renting an apartment in an apartment
Mhm.
complex and they have it on Airbnb. Again, you're not supposed to do that, but
Right.
people do
People
it.
do it.
Yeah.
I ain't mad about the hustle though. That takes care of your rent right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, but now they started cracking down. So the rules
Mm,
are different, but the city
yeah.
can't really get it together. So they keep pushing deadlines back. And I'm like, so what did I pay $150 for
Hmm.
a permit when you keep pushing the deadline back? But it's
Right.
because, you know, government. So
Girl, that's why government shouldn't be running certain things, but I feel like that is a discussion for another day.
right.
And government has too much power. We need to take some of that power back.
Mhm.
But I am actually, my sister and I, we are Airbnb right now, but I and it's like Airbnb has been a platform where like you really gotta get like used to it. It's simple to use, but the rules are really catered to the guests and not so much to protect the host. So you have to, I had to like learn the rules and learn how to like word things correctly. So
Mhm.
like my home is protected and I'm still like getting the ease of like having people over and things like that. So it is a very convenient platform. you know, it makes it very easy to host people. But once again, I'm like in the suburbs, so sometimes like areas in the suburbs are not as popular as in the city, where you are in just a very central area in the city. So all those things take a factor about like who hosts and who stays with you.
That is true. And I can't say as you've been doing it longer, if you become a super host, it does become, I don't know, you become a little bit more powerful. There are a little, you know, a few more perks. But actually, I just had a negative experience recently as a host.
Oh, do tell.
Last month. So, you know, we have Tiny Shirley, Tiny
She's
Shirley
cute.
ATL
She's
on Instagram.
get
So
her.
right. So it's a tiny house in our backyard that we rent out for, it's on Airbnb, Peerspace, and Gigster. So Peerspace and Gigster for events and stuff like that. So actually, when we had to reconnect, I got a booking request for a photo shoot here tomorrow. Excitement.
That
And
is so cool.
they're returning. So they actually did a photo shoot another time. So they're coming back.
Is that the people that you put on your Instagram, that there was like the room and there was like people like videotaping, or there were
that was a video shoot. So there's a video
Oh.
out now. What's the artist name? Moray, Moray. And the song is Broken Vows. So
Okay. Sounds
the
deep.
well, so the director, I guess, she was explaining that I guess the storyline of the video is that it was a couple, and so the tiny house was where they were supposed to start out their lives, and then the rest of the the video shoot was I guess like at a mansion. So yeah, so it's some scenes in the tiny house, but this is for a photo shoot. But anyway, so last month I had an Airbnb guest, and all of the reviews up until then were 5-star. And basically through a series of, she booked it for 2 adults, but who really ended up there was 2 adults and a child. It
They be
says,
sneaky.
yes, very much.
We have cameras, so
yeah,
we be caching them.
Yeah, so we have cameras also. But I just happened to be here. So I'm like watching her arrive with the kid, and I'm like, okay, so it's just her and a kid. But then the next morning, a man also comes. Also, I think they were transient people, perhaps, because the request came in at like 5:49 in the morning. And the question was, can we check in now? Did I see it at 5:49 a.m.? No.
No, of course not.
But I did allow them to check in early, like at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. So everything was fine, I thought. You know, I give people their privacy. A little while later, a DoorDash delivery. I see a car just sitting in the driveway. I'm like, what are they doing? And I could tell the driver didn't know what to do. So I was like, oh, I'll take the bag. I'll put it, you know, so I text the girl like, oh, I put it on the back patio table. She's like, oh, thank you. So it was all good until it wasn't, right?
Ooh,
so,
that's always how it is. It's all good until it isn't.
Right. So the next day, I was actually with a Reiki client in the Reiki studio. So this goes back to our conversation earlier that maybe was not recorded.
It wasn't, girl.
Right.
You will have to walk us through all that again.
So I was with a Reiki client, and you know, but which is a studio in our house. And so I'm like paying attention, like those people haven't left yet. So because this is now like a little bit after 12 o'clock, which checkout is 12 o'clock. So yeah, and so I'm like, I'm not necessarily a stickler, but I'm like, let's communicate, right? You know, I'm a communicator, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I like excused myself from the client for a moment, and I asked my husband, I was like, so I messaged the girl, I was like, she hasn't responded yet. I was like, maybe they're asleep. So can you go knock in a few minutes? So when he went to knock on their door, it's maybe like 12:15 or something by that point. They didn't leave the premises until like 12:45. So
Mhm.
again, you've checked in early the day before. Now you're just taking it upon yourself to leave when you feel like it.
Mhm.
And so my Reiki client wanted to know what the tiny house looked like at the end of our session. So I was like, oh, well, the people checked out. I'm not sure what state it's in. Let me go check first.
Mhm. What?
It was not good. So I walked in
Oh.
there and there were like stains on the bedroom door. There were stains on
Oh,
the bedroom
wow.
wall. There was a picture off the wall. There was like I guess spaghetti sauce stains behind the toilet in one of the bathrooms. And the other
How
bathroom,
and why? How and why?
I honestly think it was the parents weren't parenting. They just let the little girl run wild. Um, there was a huge spaghetti sauce stain, I guess, on the rug. So,
Oh
oh,
man.
urine stain mattress cover. He's
Mm-mm.
in the toilet along with something. It didn't look like toilet paper, and my instinct said, "Don't flush, like just fish all
Yeah.
the stuff out."
Yeah.
But literally, food piled up in the
Mm-mm.
corner of the bathroom. They never even looked to see where the kitchen trash can was. So basically, I ended up, oh, bathtub filled with water. They just,
Left it.
yeah, hot
Wow.
Cheetos all on the floor. So I filed a claim because the
Mm-hmm.
rug, I was thinking real hard, like, could I at least turn the rug? But no way I turned it. It was going to be
Right.
visible. So I filed a claim, and also for the mattress, for the urine stain mattress cover. So
Correct.
obviously, when the guest becomes aware of this, now she's mad that she
So
has
it's
to
like
pay.
that.
Right. So she left a bad review. So instead of a 5.0, now it's 4.85. Um,
Mm.
and Airbnb did change some of its, I don't know, they call them host upgrades now, where
Mm-hmm.
you think something
You
is,
can
yeah, a
reply
retaliatory
back.
comment,
Yeah.
you can ask for them to remove it. So I asked them to remove it. And
Mm-hmm.
they were like, oh no, we did it, we investigated, we don't think it, meets our requirements as a retaliatory comment. So they were like,
Wow.
"But you can respond back." So that's what I did. And literally, she didn't say anything bad about the tiny house. She said, oh, I would stay there again, except for the host. No Southern hospitality. I'm like, girl,
Honey, but you just trashed my place.
yeah, but also I let you check in hours early. Check-in is usually at
Exactly.
3 or
It's
4
just,
o'clock. And
yeah.
yeah, she was there since like 10 a.m. You just left when you felt like it. So, you're just upset, but it'll be fine.
Yeah, it sure would. And I think that is my con about Airbnb. Like I said, I feel that sometimes they take
Mhm,
the side of the guest instead of the side of the host. And
mhm,
like I know they just of recent as you were talking, they released other cushions and protective policies for the host because
mhm,
it is a big risk. We opening not only a part of our house, but
mhm,
basically sharing our communal way of life. We are stranger.
mhm,
And yes, there is some interesting people. I have this guy that he broke one of the tables, and I was like, well, I'm gonna charge you. I believe it was $60, it was something not outrageous because I thrifted the table and I
Of
upgraded
course you
it
did.
like, and it was a cute, like modern looking table that I made very chic. And he broke the glass. So there is no way that the base was gonna be in use.
Mhm,
So I told him, I was like, hey, you're gonna have to pay for it. His reply at first was like, this is kind of steep for a old piece. And I was like, sir, it doesn't matter if it's new or your job was to keep it intact and you failed to do that. So
right,
now you're going to pay for it.
right,
And he wasn't nasty about it or anything. He ended up paying for it. He was like, I'm a upstanding guy. I want to do what is right. And I was like, you know what? I am too. And what is right is for you to pay for it.
mhm,
But I said that was as so far that is the only little instance that I had one time I had somebody that was too loud. I just sent her a message saying like, hey, they were a little drunk, tipsy. They were getting a bit too loud. And I just sent her a message like, hey, just a friendly reminder, you have up to 11 to have this level. Yes, get it all out, because after 11 it's quiet hours. We got to go to sleep. Y'all got to find something. And she was very understanding.
Well, I think a lot of times people don't really have a clue when you're going into a new space. You don't know how thin or whatever.
Right. And you don't. And I always try to keep them like aware. So like things like that, different guests help me like cater and word things in the description just as fair as I can, so there wouldn't be any like surprises or inconveniences.
I mean, and I have to say that I would say 90% of the time the guests are great, but and there's been other times when people break something or mess something up. It's like, and you can tell how people are raised. And I would say generally people are raised right. It's like, oh, my girlfriend ruined your towels with her makeup. I'm like, did she not know where she was coming? And so he's like, I left $40. I'm like, thank you. I can probably, clean them, at least most of them. But I mean, people are generally.
I agree. There is more good than bad. Right. I definitely would say that. There is good people. We just had like a guy from England and his daughter stay over, and I had the chance of talking to them for a little bit, and there was just cool people. They left that apartment very well put together, and I was like, he was like, well, we are neat freaks. We want to make sure we clean everything. I was like, but do remember, you did pay a cleaning fee, so just follow the checkout instructions. And I mean, they did, and then they left stuff. So I was like, okay, there is more good than bad in the world. So,
and I love the experience of staying in an Airbnb, because you get a more authentic experience, a local experience. So we just came back from New York. Today is Saturday. We came back on Thursday.
Oh, nice. Girl, so, y'all be traveling. Hashtag couple goals. Let me.
But we don't have any kids at the moment, so we might as well. Also, Frontier had a buy one, get one sale. So that part. But we actually stayed in Jersey City, which I actually used to live in Jersey City. Just because Manhattan is so expensive. And it was just the place was cuter than the apartment I used to live in Jersey City.
See,
I mean, it was just so comfy, and it just really makes you feel like you get a chance to feel like, what is daily life here? And when you were talking about in the Dominican Republic, and you can hear the outside sounds, like literally we were right there on the street. You can hear, the people talking, the horns honking. And sometimes I'm like, I don't necessarily miss that, but
right.
But really it's a man yelling and cursing outside.
Yeah, sometimes we get that. Like my parents live in a very busy street, so it's too much. But the whole aspect of having it is
because when I was in Nicaragua, I was a chaperone on a study abroad trip, and I remember it was like the last day, and I remember laying in the bed and I could hear the fruit man like, oh my, and I was laying there like, how can I have this again? How can I make my life like this?
How can this be a permanent soundtrack of life?
And then, the loud trucks with all the propaganda.
Oh, yes. I love it.
I was like, I don't even know what they're saying, but I know somebody's running for something.
Right.
Adamant about them winning. That's all I know.
And they hitting all the neighborhoods.
Right. Very loud, very loud.
I love it. So, Dominique, we have been hearing about just you're traveling with your husband, your Airbnb experience, and like by listening to you, we kind of starting to get the sense that you are a woman of the word. That you are your own person. You do things your own way. You have curated a life that suits you guys' need and what you aim to do, today and moving forward. So let's start, since we know that little aspect, who is Dominique Tate-Williams?
Girl, I don't know. She's a lot of people. And to your point, I really have worked hard at, I used to have a ring. I just cut it off recently. Look, because we swell as we get big. But it was like printed.
We do.
Yeah, it said create the life you imagine. And that's what I really strive to do. So earlier I was saying to you that for a long time I was, I think, focused on creating a life that I think was expected of me. So as a business major, a Spanish major or whatever, I was thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be in corporate. And I did that for a good while and I hated it. And I was like, why am I working so hard for stuff that doesn't really matter? Like none of this is really important. And so I actually did the United Way VIP program, which is United Way Volunteer Involvement program. And it trains you how to sit on a board. Because really I was like, oh, I'm going to leave corporate and work for a nonprofit. And then I realized how much money you don't make. And I was like, oh, maybe not. So,
same for my stove.
Right. So then I served on boards for a little while. But still, I was like, this work doesn't really mean anything to me. So at some point I had moved to Spain. And when I came back, that's when I really started doing, more of the nonprofit work, which is how we met. And even though that job had its trials and tribulations, it was, are you still there? You're still there.
Yes, girl. But we gotta talk about that.
I know. But that's why I'm not even saying names.
Right.
So, but it was the most fulfilling work that I had done up until that point. Like I could see that what we were doing was important. I knew I was making a difference. And it's funny, I volunteered there last week. And
Get out.
Somebody walks in. I was helping to organize stuff for the holiday gift store. And of course, somebody comes by speaking Spanish. And I was like, nobody here speaks Spanish. Okay. They were like, you do. I was like, okay. And it was like deja vu. When I wasn't even hired yet, I had interviewed, and the person I interviewed with, I just never heard from him again. And I was like, something feels wrong because I'm pretty sure I had the job. I don't know what happened. So I just showed up there one day, and outside there was some lady, and I could tell she needed help, and she only spoke Spanish. So I was like, I'll help you. And we go upstairs, we encounter the office manager. See, I'm not saying names.
Yeah, I love it.
Right. And she was like, oh, well, I don't speak Spanish. And I was like, I do. And I'm like, look at me working, and I don't even work here yet.
Right.
And it was like a flashback. Oh, and actually the lady that came, she said your name, but she kept confusing you and Lou. She was like, she was picking up gifts for her son, essentially. But I think you are the one that told her to come. But I was like,
she's probably part of my caseload.
Yeah. But anyway, the point is that was work that truly mattered to me. And I just know that my purpose now is serving others. And I do that now in different ways. So I'm a small business consultant from the desk of Dominique Tate.
I love that.
So I really get a lot from that because I know how hard it is to start a business and all that. So I get a lot from the fact that I know I'm helping someone to realize their dream. And then I'm a Reiki master, so Reiki Me Atlanta. And I get a lot from that as well. People are, a lot of times distraught, or, when they come. I had a client yesterday, and, she said something like she didn't feel like she was worthy of love. And I was just like, and so the fact that I can try to pour into someone and sit and listen to them, and when they leave, they feel better, that makes me feel good. And then of course we rent out the tiny house. So that's what I'm doing now. I had a full-time job as of a month ago as a marketing and social media manager at a nonprofit.
The nonprofits.
It was a toxic environment, I would say. And I was like, this is not for me. This is not
what I need.
No, it was great in so many ways. Great people for the most part. I love the coworkers, fully remote, crazy vacation time because we were on a college calendar. It was so perfect in so many ways, but what is most important is how you're treated and if you're valued or not. And I wasn't treated well, and I didn't feel valued by the head of the organization, who is also my manager. So you know me, I'm like, oh no, I cannot. No. And so I still talk to those people, and they're still complaining. And I'm like, I understand everybody can't up and leave, but you have to figure out what to do.
How to do it.
Yeah.
And that is such a key thing in life, figuring out when to enter and exit. And I think for the past 2 years is something that I have been learning, in different stages of life with different relationships, like when do you enter and when do you exit? Because there are things that are for long terms, then there are things that are for a short term, and then there are things that are really, really for a short term. We're talking about weeks, so a day or a week. So having that perception of when to enter and exit is like key in life. And it really will either set you up to have a happy life, because happiness is a choice, and you have to make a series of choices to live the life that you want. And I have always noticed that about you. Like, we met in one of these nonprofit organizations that you have worked with, and one of the things as I got to know you, it was that you just knew when to enter and exit. And I was like, man, I need that skill, because I feel like we all can curate the life that we want to, but we are either too conditioned or lazy and fearful. Fear is a big one.
I think everything you just said is really true. I think the top 2 and the 3 you mentioned are we're conditioned. So like I said, I was doing what I thought was expected of me. Lazy, I think, would be the third thing, but fearful, very much so. So people would say to me, you're so, look, I have a card right here. It'll be backwards. But this is what one of my coworkers gave me when I left. And it says, it takes courage to be who you really are, live your honest truth, and shine like you want to shine. But it's a lot, it takes a lot of energy to be that way. Because like when I moved abroad, people are like, you're so brave. And I'm like, I'm not brave, I'm scared. I'm just doing it anyway, because to your point, I want my life to be something else. So you have to take the steps to do that. And it can be scary. And then also, as I've gotten older, I was saying earlier that I've gotten a lot more comfortable with being my true authentic self, and also not caring about what other people think. And that could be family, friends, coworkers, bosses, but I know who I am and what I stand for, and all that good stuff. And so, yeah, it doesn't matter. Would I like people to like me? Generally, yes. But also, if they don't, like, why would you not like me? But
she's awesome, guys.
because you didn't like me for a second. but
And we got to talk about that too.
but I was like, but it was like, I knew you were a genuine person. You were there for the right reasons. And so whatever the problem was, I was like, you don't have to like me, but we have to work together. And I knew your heart was in the right place. So I think that's what people have to figure out. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody likes you, but what are we here for? And we can move that forward.
I like that. I like that. And I think like, in the place where we met, it has been a place where I have developed in so many areas and have grown in so many areas. But there comes a point to where like, is this an interest or an extra time? You ask yourself those questions, correct? And one of the lessons that I have learned was just that, like, okay, you might not like somebody in your team. You might not like the person that you have been partnered up with. But how can you unite like the passions that you have and work towards a goal? I think that shows maturity. A lot of times we mistake like good work ethics with how much I'm gonna like somebody or how well I'm gonna get along with that person. If we're gonna hang out and become buddy buddy, sometimes none of that is gonna happen, but the good work ethic is going to happen. And it goes back to that point and that mindset of your entry and your exits. Because in our situation, it was that entryway of like, you're going to learn to work with another personality that might be different from yours. So another structure, because I came from a very like free structure, like,
oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So coming into a more structured setting of like, in my opinion, more micromanaging, it was a big adjustment for me in a cultural shock. But that's one example of entering, right? But then you just mentioned another example of exiting, which was the toxic environment. And it's like having that perception of when to leave and when to stay.
And then for our situation, it really wasn't micromanaging. It was, I had to answer to someone.
Correct.
Right. And because I think for the most part, I let y'all I was like, look, check in with me. I need to know what you're doing, but look, make this work for you. That's
yes.
That's
yes. Yes. And I learned that too.
Right. I was like, look, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do and I can trust you to do it and I get the answers I need or whatever, everybody's going to be good. And so, it worked for a good time until it didn't for me. And, it was a very hard decision for me to leave there because, like I said, I was very fulfilled in the work. But it was just certain things, as you know, that I was like, I don't agree with this. This is not how any of this should work. And that's what I've learned. Like, I have to tell myself any workplace is going to have its challenges. But I just really struggle when I think leadership. I'm like, what are you even doing? I don't agree with this.
Right.
No. To do things that I don't agree with, or like, this doesn't make sense. So those are things that I've learned about myself. And so that's why, like when I left there, that's when I started from the desk of Dominique Tate formally. Because, if I'm gonna, be happy with how something is run, I'm probably gonna have to do it myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. And like I said, that's something admirable. Like I'm gonna be turning 35 next week, and I was telling my sister and I, we have some very deep conversations that I like to overshare with her. But I've been having some very like, just reviewing and like analyzing. And the word that she said to me was like, you have been very pensive these days. And I was like, that is such an appropriate word, because I feel like you, as you get older, you want to strip away from those things that are kind of like keeping you away from being your authentic self. I 100% believe that I was designed for a purpose by God, and like I ask myself, am I living according to his design for my life? Am I completely being that person he designed me to be? Or have I given up some of those attributes for things that are money, status, security, safety, you know? And if I'm gonna make that trade, am I gonna take that risk? Am I gonna say it is time to exit? Am I gonna be brave enough? So I have been going through this cycle of detoxing and really like nitpicking the past 5 years of my life, because this is I'm entering my mid 30s, and you know, it's critical to know like what am I doing. You know, I already spent 5 years in my 30s. Like, am I really being the design that I was meant to be? And I always go back to that, you know, am I being what I was designed to be? Am I becoming each day a little bit less worried about what people think about me, a little less concerned about how many friends I have or what I make, you know? And like ultimately my goal in this 35th year of my life is to strip myself away from anything that is like worldly. And when I say that, I'm not going to be unrealistic and not work and live off the land, like, but to work in a way that enhances the design that I want to be, like to enhance like what the creator has says that I need to be. And it is a difficult thing. Like, I'm having a really hard time understanding, one, the power of no, and then the other one is like things that no longer agree with me. Like, am I going to continue being here when I don't agree with so many other things? And that's that is not only to say about a job, but in relationships, in habits. You know, we can go as simple as like dressing. Like, am I going to continue wearing this dress if I don't feel my best in it? And stripping away is hard, yo.
No, it is. But I think being self-aware is something that you, well, hopefully it's the case for other people as well, but you become hopefully more self-aware as you get older. And yeah, you have to learn to be okay with letting certain things go, because, you know, having the knowledge that if I let this go, it can be so much better on the other side. I think it's the word you said, condition, like this is how stuff has to be all the time. And no, it doesn't. There's the opportunity for it to be better. Right. And sometimes you just have to take those steps. So I think like by appearances, it looks like you're living in your purpose.
Yes.
I've seen you in action. But obviously I don't know, you know, all of your hopes and dreams and all that. But I think you're doing great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Definitely there is room for improvement. There is
Always.
things that I still need to let go. And there is excess that I need to make. And I haven't been brave enough to make them. You know, but it is time to be brave in certain areas. So I'm working through it, you know, praying about it. I'm going to be doing like a little self-retreat on my birthday to kind of like hit those big questions in solitude and like sit on them and like meditate on them and come out of that we are resolution of like, okay, it's time to put the big panties on, girl. It's time to promote yourself to thongs. No
But
more granny panties.
right. But I think that's funny that the thong is the promotion. You get
Right.
the thong. Um, but
Transparency,
right.
transparency.
But faith is an extremely important that because when it's like what songs or whatever, I realize the theme and the songs that I've chosen is basically everything is going to be all right. And taking, it's called leap of faith for a reason. Like it's scary to make the jump, to make the change. But I think I've just become more I don't know if it's confident in my faith, like everything will be fine, everything will work out. Quitting my job last month, do I have other streams of income? Yes. Is it always like flowing freely? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But like I said, in the little brief pause that we took, all of a sudden something is booked for tomorrow. Like, thank you, God. Just being
Yeah.
grateful. Like
Yeah.
everything will be fine and work out. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. It definitely is something that we need to hear. And I don't want to come off as like there's nothing wrong with living like a structured life. There's nothing wrong with like having a plan, because there's some people that's what they work best at, like having a structure, getting these positions and success, and it really does fill them up. They do live their best life in those roles with those titles, with that salary. But for the other group, which seems our people, our tribe, we're not like that. And it's funny the process of admitting that to yourself, because in a certain point you feel like you are a failure. You feel like, man, why don't I have those ambitions? Why don't I want to go to school for X amount of time and get like a doctorate or get all these things? Or why don't I want to be like the share of this big corporation? Why don't I have those fulfillments? Those type of ambitions, right? They are very specific ambitions. So it's a lot of like tearing at yourself to rebuild. So I believe in that. I believe there's things that you gotta tear, and then you gotta reveal like your authentic self. That self that is you. It has always been your design. Like, you have ambitions, but they are different. You want to make a way in a different way. I'm all about being behind the scenes. I don't, believe it or not, I dress pretty like attention seeking, but my personality, I prefer to be in the background. I prefer being in the micro level doing things.
and you get it done.
Yes. And I had to tell myself that's okay. Like, it's okay to have that type of ambition. It's okay for your goal in life to be, I just want to impact one person and imprint in them something that will change them forever. Instead of like hundreds and things like that. So I just want to like encourage the audience that is listening to us. It's not so much about not having the structure of this goal of becoming a doctor or the CEO of a corporate. It's like, are you your authentic self when you're doing that? Or are you masquerading to please whoever? Because who are we really pleasing at the end of the day?
Well, because honestly, I've had jobs where I got paid a lot of money, but what did I have to do to get the money? What was my daily life like? And was I happy? And
I love it. Daily life.
Listening to the inner voice, like, how do you feel on a regular basis? So specifically, I used to, work in corporate, very nice check. I left my good corporate job to open a boutique with a business partner. That was a good run for a couple years. And look, the situation changed.
They
So,
do. It works
right,
until it doesn't.
right. And so I was like, what can I do for me? So that's when I decided to move to Spain. And it was a whole series of events. Literally in Nicaragua, when I said, I heard the man like, oh, and I'm like, how can I make my life like this? And I came back home. It was maybe the day after I got back. And it was like when you sit and you're just open to receiving and listening. I was watching House Hunters International. And you know, my other name is Elon, which is a Hebrew name, usually a male name. And I'm like sitting there with my laptop open, but House Hunters International is on, and I hear Elon, and I was like, what? Like, God, what are you talking?
Right. You talking to me?
Right. And then I listened to, you know, I zeroed in on the TV, and it was a man named Elon and his wife moving to Spain, looking for an apartment in Spain. And it was literally like, this is not a coincidence. This is a sign. And literally in that moment, it was an epiphany. So I tend to have epiphanies when I go on my trips and just and that was how I came to move to Spain. But literally when I came back, it was like, okay, what are you going to do now? And so my mother said to me, because I said, I'm trying to figure out like what kind of job should I get or whatever. And she said, can't you just get a job like you had before? And I said, yes, but was I happy before? And she said, no. And I said, so why would that be the advice?
Right. It's conditioned. We've been conditioned.
Yeah. And so I said, I really don't want to do what I was doing before. I want to take a beat to figure out. And so that's how I came to the nonprofit where we work together. And was it difficult? Yeah, the money they were offering me was pennies, but literally I would say, and I was like, well, I'll take it now. But at the time my house was still being rented because I had been out of the country. And I said, but when it's time for me to move back into my house, I don't know that I'll be able to afford a mortgage and, you know, this. So it was, I'm interested in this role. So my point is this, advocate for yourself. So that's something I want to share with all women. Learn to advocate for yourself. So, you know, having that conversation up front, it was like, I'll take it, but please know that this might be a financial difficulty. And that was maybe in August. And by December, my money had doubled. I don't know, but they made it work because they didn't want me to leave. And they just kept making up jobs for me. So, you know, again, it worked until it didn't. And so it was me just being very convicted. Like, I don't want to live this empty life. And yes, I'm getting a check, but I don't care anything about this work.
Wow.
And I had a lot of experiences where I would work very long hours. And again, but what is it for? So, you know, you just have to figure out what's right for you.
I love it. I think this is the perfect transition, right, to go into like the soundtrack of your life. We kind of have gotten glimpses of like chapters and like what have you learned about these different chapters, traveling, just having the you know, epiphany moment, and then working in these different settings. But what has been the background music in all these different chapters?
So I'm glad you gave me the questions ahead of time, because I'm not good at remembering titles and lyrics and stuff like that. And also, these are favorite songs of mine, but are they but for the purpose of this conversation, you know, I didn't want to say, oh, my favorite song is Buddy by Tribe Called Quest, because that's not really relevant to this. but
they dope, and you need to listen to them.
Yes,
they are dope.
But Zoom by the Commodores. I was born in 1977. That's the year the song came out. I think I might have become more familiar with it, maybe, I don't know, in high school or something. But it feels like a theme song for me. So it's like, I'd like to fly far away from here where my mind can see fresh and clear, and I'll find the love that I long to see. Everybody can be what they want to be. So it's not really about a love song. It's people being accepted for who they are, people being comfortable with being who they are. That is, and I am a dreamer. And I've known that about myself for a long time. I grew up on a dirt road. I had plenty of time.
In Savannah.
Yes, I had plenty of time to sit and think and daydream. So that's one. And then the other, Vivir Mi Vida by Mark Anthony, that literally came out in 2013 when I lived in Spain. And so literally one of the teachers that I worked with, she was like, Dominique, this is your song. Like, because it was, I was maybe 36 when I moved there. I was much older than, like, my roommate was like 24, but it was like, I'm gonna laugh, I'm gonna dance, like I'm gonna live my life. And literally, like, they made a video and that was the song in the video. And I still think that. And did you know that was a remake of a song called C'est la vie from a Moroccan singer?
Oh no.
Yeah, so I just preparing for this interview.
Look, I did not know. I hope they gave him credit. Come on, Mark Anthony.
Well, yes, they did. I mean, so the tune is the same, but the lyrics were in French, the original. But
that is such I haven't heard the one about the commenters. Definitely gonna listen to it after the interview. But Vivir Mi Vida, la 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 la. I love it. It's just such a state of mind. You know what I'm saying? It's like so many people want you to play a part in their scape of life, but you were always meant to be your own book. And I truly believe that this is why we share stories, like to just remind ourselves, like, hey, you're not just a part of somebody's expectations. You are your own book. And of course, there's gonna be moments where you play different parts in people's lives. And even in your own, because there is times in our lives where it's silence and development. And you play kind of like just the person that views, is learning and taking in information, but you are meant to be your own book. And your book has power. The words and stories in that book can influence generations and even the people now around you. So when you live your life in abundance, in that joy, like la 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 la, like la 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 is like such a loose thing. It's like, loose.
Okay, you can't get it
right. Like
right.
You are truly living in that purpose and being authentic. I love that song.
But also, like, I mean, so yeah, sharing stories are important and stuff, but it's just, you can still inspire people just by being your real self. Because I remember you when you interviewed for that job, because I think I was brought in to, well, what do you think or whatever. And my memory is not great, but I remember you in the office interviewing you. And I was like, I love her energy. I think your hair was short then too.
It was.
Yeah. And like, that's what I'm saying. I don't remember a lot of things, but you just in that moment impacted me. I was inspired by you because I was like, she is her real self. And I can see that on her. I'm an empath too. So I'm always paying attention because, conversely, someone else that you had been cool with at that place, I was asked to sit in on that interview, and I was like, something isn't right.
Oh.
But I was not listened to.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, she's saying what sounds good, her resume looks good. I was like, but something is not right. And I don't really
Right.
know
What it is.
Right. But it was, I could see it on you, I could see it on that person.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it is about how you carry yourself and present yourself to the world as well.
I love it. Yeah, so true. What was the most significant moment in your life?
I think when I first decided to study abroad at 18, and I went to Guayaquil, Ecuador, and it was significant for me because, like I said, I grew up on a dirt road. So it's not like I grew up in neighborhoods. Like I never lived in a neighborhood until I went to college. And I was like, I can go next door and play with someone. It's amazing. But so, it was just, I hadn't, my father traveled internationally for work, but I hadn't really had a lot of international experiences up until that point, maybe a cruise or something. But it was life-changing because it was taking that first real leap of faith. I was 18. I was, flying to Ecuador by myself. I was, I remember distinctly the plane dropped. It was some turbulence and the plane dropped. I mean,
That's
it was
the worst.
Right. And I grabbed the person's hand next to me. I feel like it was some Yiddish guy or something because he was like trying to console me, but it wasn't English. I had no idea what he was saying, but it was literally like, okay, I'm in this by myself. I can rely on myself. I have to rely on myself. Just talking myself through it, like be open to the different experiences. And so some of those experiences that I had, relationships that I made are still in place today. And it's just a huge step towards me being more confident. And nobody believes that I was shy, but yeah, I was shy, and it was a big thing. It felt more like me becoming a real woman, maybe. Right. Like I'm not a kid anymore. Like I'm learning to navigate the world around me and figure things out. So I think that was it.
No. So if you could turn back time, what 5 songs would you suggest to your younger you, and why?
Okay. So I first have to say, I love the Lord. Look, my cross, I wear.
Love it. Look,
But,
it's about to be some Russia songs.
No, it's not. So, but I am more. I've learned. I was raised in a Baptist church, a Black Baptist church. So we got that good word.
Yeah.
But I have realized I am more spiritual rather than religious. More so because like you said, like a citizen of the world, like I'm interacting with people of different faiths and all that. So what I realized is songs that I'm attracted to. Well, first of all, my best friend said that it's always sexy time at my house. So I love a vibe, right?
Yes.
But in terms of the songs that I'm going to share here, the overarching theme is you're going to have troubles, but everything will be all right. So some of them, surprisingly, are like gospel songs that I have over time ended up turning to. So one of them, this is not a gospel song, Alanis Morissette, Hand in My Pocket, where it's like, I'm short, but I'm healthy. I'm broke, but I'm kind. Like we're so much more than, we're not one thing, right? I'm sane, but I'm overwhelmed. It's possible to be all the things at the same time. That actually came out in 1995 when I graduated from high school, but it means a lot more to me now.
Look at that.
Yeah, it was, I really prefer the a cappella version, and I heard that on Instagram the other day, and I just sat with it for a minute. I was like, this song is really deep. She wrote this so long ago. But anyway, Another one is William Beckton, Be Encouraged. That is a gospel song. I think it might have come out when I was in college. I distinctly remember being in my dorm room stressed about whatever and listening to that song, like having my own little praise and worship. Is Be Encouraged. No matter what's going on, he'll make it all right. You got to stand strong. Like, those are the lyrics. A song that I would hear every Sunday morning, and I was playing it again in preparing. But I remember when I lived in New Jersey for a couple years, that was a lonely time, because I mean, people aren't that friendly
Up north.
up top. But listening to, it's another gospel song, the Clark Sisters, You Brought the Sunshine. And so it's a childhood memory, because I would hear it on the radio on Sunday mornings going to church. But I don't know, at that time in my life, I don't know, it came back to me or something, but I would listen to it on a repeat, because I'm singing hard, I mean it. And it's a religious song. So it's like, look, me trying to get the lyrics. There's nothing impossible. I'm trying also not to sing.
That fine line.
Yes, nothing impossible, nothing infallible, nothing too hard for my God to work out. No matter what the problem, God will always solve it. Like, I played that song yesterday, and my husband was in the bathroom cutting his hair. I was having a whole praise and worship. I was like, no matter. And he came out of the bathroom. He was like, my grandmother used to play that song every single morning.
Oh,
but that one, then Israel and New Breed, Sanctuary, Alpha and Omega.
He's good.
Oh man, that song, it makes me cry. I mean, obviously in a good, I just get so full, but it's, prepare me to be a sanctuary. Like, that is what I want to be to other people. I want to feel like I'm a safe space to other people, where they can, people really do share things with me. And I'm like, I don't know these people. Why are they saying this?
You are that safe space.
Yeah, but I do want to be that to people. And it's like, Lord, prepare me, like, to, it's like, I want to be a better person. And then not gospel, Michael Jackson, Off the Wall. So there was a time when I was still in corporate, and I hated it so much. It was my first job out of college. It was consulting. And I had to go to, I had to go to a suburb of Chicago, and it was 2 weeks of training. I'm like, God, okay, I'm here. I don't know these people, and it really didn't, it didn't feel right. It felt like, when you were saying you had to masquerade. And I was there for 2 weeks. Like, it was not a break, other than luckily I had a single room. But I went out on a Saturday night, and actually during that same time, I went to a comedy show in Chicago with team members, only Black person. Got called out in the comedy club by the comedian on stage,
who was white.
And it was like, how can I shrink into this seat? So, I don't even remember what he was saying, but it was just very uncomfortable. And I was just like, oh, I don't feel like this is my vibe. But I ended up going out to a club, and Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, came on, and I was dancing my heart out, because it was like, life ain't so bad at all if you live it off the wall. And it's like, put that 9 to 5 on the shelf. And again, everything is going to be all right, basically, is always the theme. And then Jill Scott, When I Wake Up. First of all, her voice is so
yes,
soothing, right? But
just her, she's just beautiful. I feel like
Right.
she's such a beautiful woman with a beautiful voice.
All right. And I was watching, or so I don't know. It just, you know how you can hear songs, but sometimes you really zero in on the
Mhm.
lyrics. And
Mhm.
so when I wake up, it's basically more or less like, yeah, I might be in a dark time or sad or whatever, but when I wake up, when I come out of it, I can appreciate that experience for what it was. But I will come out of it. And again, it's just knowing I'm an advocate of feel your feelings, sit with them for a little bit, and then process and move on. And so that's kind of like what that song is about.
Love it. Um, what makes your story unique and why tell it now?
I think everybody's story is unique. And I, with age and exposure and experience, have come to, I mean, I already knew I was privileged in a lot of ways. But especially working at that nonprofit and
Mhm.
interacting with people over the years and learning more about what their experiences have been, I feel like I've in a lot of ways had a very easy life, which it feels embarrassing to say, but I'm grateful at the same time. Um, but yeah, I just think everybody's story is extremely unique and everybody has a story to tell. Maybe I'm just more animated when I
I love it. But why tell it? Why is it important to you to share those experiences? And
I think it's important to learn from other people's triumphs and failures, and you can apply that to your own life. Like, I've already made these mistakes or had these experiences, I can offer you um, some advice to, yes, you still need to make your own mistakes and all that, but perhaps I can share some things with you that might help you to avoid some of the pitfalls. But I do think people need to experience a lot of things for themselves to learn the lessons they need to learn. Um, right. Did I answer the question?
yes, you did. That
Okay.
was very beautifully said. What demons or quote unquote habits are you still fighting off?
Self-doubt, being more disciplined. I I remember I told this guy I was dating once upon a time that I was lazy. And he was like, "You are not lazy. You're far from lazy." And I'm
Mhm.
like, "But nobody knows the conversations I have to have with myself to achieve the things, like people see, oh, you did XYZ, but they don't know how much work or how much internal effort it required to do it." So yeah, I suffer from self-doubt a lot, but I think a lot of people do, especially women. So it's weird. While I'm extremely confident on one hand, I have those doubts like, am I good enough? Can I do it? You know, that sort of thing. Then discipline. I know all the things I'm supposed to be doing, especially like with working out and stuff, but I mean, it's not my jam. So, but I do know that specifically like with working out, I feel better when I do it. And I'm telling you, girl, as you get older, you got to be in tune with how your body is changing and how you're feeling and start addressing stuff because
Mhm.
it is way different now
Mhm.
than it used to
Mhm.
be. So those are I think the two things for me.
Do you think you will win against those demons? Why or why not?
Always, I'm a winner. Um, I know, like I said, I know what I'm supposed to do in a lot of ways. I just have to make myself do it. But also it's helpful um, sometimes to share stuff with other people so they can help to hold you accountable.
Mm.
So there was like, because I said I left my job. So there's a role that I've been meaning to apply for. Like you see, I said I've been meaning to apply for.
It's
It's a
that
month,
process.
right? It is to be an adjunct professor. Um,
What's that?
Adjunct professor, it's a professor. You're not a full-time professor. You might just
Mm.
do one class, teach one class or two classes. So one of them is on entrepreneurship and the other one is self-leading others. That's what I'm going to apply for. But again, I still just have self-doubt. And so the person that I'd asked to write my letter of recommendation, I asked him a long time ago. And so while I was in New York, he just sent a text that said, send me the email. And I was like, yes, it was not jokes. It was not yelling. And I needed that, like, just do it. And literally it's been drafted. It's been 70% drafted since November. But what is stopping me from just hitting send? It's my own self-doubt. And the thing is, you know, it's not even about rejection. I don't know. It's my own weird issues. But again, I think a lot of people suffer from that. So, yeah.
Well, I hope you do it.
I will do it. I said, you know, I'm a person of my word. I will do it. And really I have I don't know if it's a good habit or a bad habit of taking care of other people first. So in work, if I have, you know, 5 tasks I'm supposed to complete, and 3 of them are, I have to get this to Liz Marie so she can do what she needs to do. I have to get, you know, I'm going to do the ones that only involve me last. And that serves me well in some ways. You know, people know I can be depended on. They don't have to wait on stuff for me, but guess who's getting shorted in the end? Me.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn that sometimes I need to put myself first.
And I believe that you have, oh, no, sorry. What song describes your current life season?
So there's a song called Contentment by Kindred the Family Soul. And I just think at this stage in my life, while there's always, to our point about ambition and stuff before, I was more professionally ambitious in the past. But for me, I don't think work is one of the most important things to me anymore. It's just, like I said, about creating a good life for myself. And I'm just really grateful for my husband because he's a part of that contentment. But look, on the other hand, ladies, let's be happy with ourselves first.
But you did that. You enjoy your singleness and like travel. So definitely, I feel like it led up to this.
And that is exactly right. I didn't get married until I think I was 42. And I married a person that I knew when I was 18. Look at that. Look, that's important to note. Just, you know, keep them in the back of your mind. But I know
don't break them. No. Keep those bridges intact.
No, for real.
Intact.
Like, no, for real. So even like people I used to date, like I'm just generally cool with people because a relationship doesn't work out, it doesn't, I mean, yeah, sometimes somebody was horrible to you or you were horrible to them, but generally speaking, you liked a person or were dating them for a reason. And so, yeah, you can just be generally cool, cordial or whatever with people. And that ended up working out well for me. But
yes, for my exes, it's not going to work out for us. So don't keep it moving. Distance is key.
Like everybody's situation is different.
Right. I would put a restraining order.
Oh, look. Different situations.
I'm kidding. They were not that bad, but y'all keep your distance. Just stay over there.
She said what she said. But,
right.
But no, it was, look, I forgot the question already. What was the question?
What song describes this current life season?
Well, I mean, it was the contentment, but, oh yeah, I was going to say in my head, you know how we all have a thought like, oh, my life is going to go like this. So I thought, oh, I'll be married by like, what was it? Like 25 or 26. I'll have my first kid at 28. Then I'll have like 2 more because I wanted time for me and the husband to be alone before the first kid came. Again, I didn't get married until I was 42. So I know, again, what God has for me is for me. So I knew that, and that was the best thing for me to not have. I mean, of course I have relationships, but I'm the type of person I would have foregone something I really wanted to do for the relationship. So I wouldn't have been moving to another country, and you know what I mean? Like, I needed it to happen that way to do all the things that I wanted to do and focus on me. And me being a happy person definitely betters my relationship, because I'm fulfilled in me. And, you know, we come together and we're great together. And he's not necessarily the type of person that I thought I would marry, but he is for sure the type of person that I needed.
And that's important. That's
Yes,
important. Going back to it's just like that's the theme playing out through the conversation, going back to your authentic self. A lot of times the things that we want is not what we need, and it's not the things that complement who we are.
He's helped me to really be more, I mean, I was spontaneous in certain things, but just to be more free, more loose, not so rigid, you know. I don't know. It's a good balance. And I just know that us individually pursuing, you know, whatever our interests are, being happy separately helps us to be happier together. And so obviously there's still a lot of things that could be better, you know, with my life. But I am really content and happy.
I love it. What keeps you hopeful?
I mean, there's still good people out there doing, you know, good things. I don't know, there's still opportunities that I haven't, you know, you have thoughts of, oh, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. You still haven't done it. There's still hope for the future. I'm still moving towards things that I'm interested in, would like to do. And like I said, my overarching theme of the music is everything will be all right. And so I just hold on to that. Also, I'm a big fan of faith without works. Is, you know, like, yeah, I have to, if I want something to happen, I do play a role in that. So I'm very much always thinking about, yes, whatever is for me, but what can I do to help that along? And it makes me feel better personally, and not just like I am, the word wouldn't be lazy, but like I'm just sitting there just waiting on something to happen. I'm playing a role in my own happiness.
You have to do something. That is definitely the it factor. I think that's the one that we miss. Ironically, so we are like, oh, let me manifest something, or in the Christian community, let me have faith in, like, believe in God for it. But there is a part that you have to do. Like, God will do his part, and his part is the supernatural, you know, making a way where it's impossible for a way to be made. But your part, the human part, you have to do it. You have to take steps. You have to prepare the way. And there is a story in the Bible, you know, that is like, well, there is the story of Abraham, right? You know, he was gonna sacrifice his son, right? But he didn't know that he created a space, right, for God to do his will, for God to do the supernatural. And I always go back to that. You gotta create the space. You have to have the attitude of obeying, of doing, in order for God to do the supernatural. Because if you just like, oh, you know, I want X and Y to happen, and you are not doing anything, you are not even moving a paper clip, girl, you better get comfortable in that desk. Girl, because that's gonna be your E and all. So
No, for real.
you better start moving some papers.
Mhm,
Start there.
mhm.
Start with something
Something.
simple.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, and I just know that, um, my mind is always working, like, what could I be doing?
mhm,
And a lot of times I feel like there's opportunities in just, like you said, conversations and
mhm.
helping other people. All that stuff kind of comes along with it. When you're in gratitude is a thing also. So, you know, times might be tough, but I'm grateful
Mhm,
for it. Like I said, back to the Alanis Morissette song. What did she say? I'm broke, but I'm kind. Like,
mm. I
I
love
don't have
that.
this, but I have that.
Hmm.
So
I love that. So like back in the day, we used to do like mixes, tape mixes, CD mixes.
mhm.
If you can put all these songs into a mix, what would you call that mix?
Well, I already started making it for you to share it with you.
Oh, yes,
So
that girl.
you know how I don't like it to be extra work for you. I was like, I got the songs. Let me just put it
Thank you.
together.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But
I
it's
appreciate that.
so I was supposed to be writing a book, but again, you get in your own way. But the title of the book and uh, of the playlist would be The Joy and Agony of Everyday Life.
Mm, mm,
It's for real. Everyday life
yeah.
can be joyous, and then it also
Wow.
can suck, but it's an
Mm.
everyday thing.
Oh, that just sat with me, right?
No, I mean
Yeah.
for real. Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
look, you
Yeah.
said, mhm.
It's good because definitely I would say like when I enter my 30s, it has been like not my favorite, if I'm being very transparent. Like um definitely have many joyous moments in my 30s, but it has been hard. And me and God, we always go back to this theme where I'm low key upset, maybe not so low key because I'm very verbal about it. I'm like, yo, what's going on, sir? You can't. You gotta pick a struggle for me. You cannot give me all the
All of them
struggles.
at the same time.
Um, Look, and it has been um there is a saying in Spanish, un trago amargo, a bitter drink.
Mhm,
If I can describe my 30s up to this point, it has been a bitter drink.
mhm,
Um, have I have still had joyous moments and moments of happiness. I would be very cruel and unjust if I said that I didn't.
mhm,
But the joy and the agony of life, that just hit me in such a personal level, because up to this point, that's exactly the chapter that I have been living in. There
mhm,
has been some bitter drinks to drink, but then there has been like the nectar of life.
mhm. The
You
next
know,
step.
the nectar,
Mhm,
but life is just, and I think up to this point, I have been very privileged of like certain struggles I think God has protected me from. But
mhm.
then he was like, oh, baby girl, you got to go through some stuff.
Right.
And he picked 30s for me to go through that stuff. And so very, very true. There is joy and agony in life.
Yeah, in everyday life. And so
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I would say, girl, nobody knows what they're doing, or everybody, it's still it don't matter how old you are, it's still
Mm-hmm.
evolving, changing, like what am I supposed to be doing? Um, but also 30s, if I reflect, the 30s weren't an easy time for me either, because you're thinking a lot about what you thought your life was supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like, what am I supposed to be doing? And also it's a feeling of where kind of do I belong?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was in the club, and it was like once you hit a certain age, like it doesn't feel like I belong here anymore. Like I
Mhm.
feel too old, or it's not as fun, and it's like, okay, so what is my social life supposed to be? Where am I finding things? And like, especially when I moved to Spain and came back, like I said, I was like 36, 37.
Mhm.
So by that time, my community, people were getting married or they lived together. And so when I came back, it's like, so I want to go out, but because nobody's going to find me at my house. Nobody's going to see me at my house. But it was like the people that I would go out with and all that before, their lives were different now. So it was in a lot of ways trying to start over and figure out, okay, how can I do this? And I had to get very comfortable with doing things on my own,
Mhm.
honestly. Um, so actually, when I moved to New Jersey, that was when I was like, okay, girl, you're going to have to go out by yourself, go to dinner by yourself, and this and that. And so you just have to try new things. But the 30s are not an easy time, I don't think, for a lot of people. So,
Oh,
look, you're going to be all right. I'm going to send you
I
this playlist.
and I'm gonna listen to it and sit in my feelings and then
And I want to know
move on.
what your favorites are, because there was at least a couple
Yes.
where I'm like, she's going to love this song.
Oh yes, I'm gonna record myself and post them, my
Okay.
reaction to the songs.
Okay.
So we are coming to the conclusion of this beautiful conversation, so enriching, the story of your life. And as we conclude, I want to ask you, what is the message you would like to share with the next generation of women and girls?
Look, ladies, I have to lean in for reals. I think I tried to do or share this as a manager as well. Um, I want to see you all succeed.
Mm.
I want you to feel comfortable speaking up for yourselves and advocating for yourselves. You are worthy of all good things. It hurts me so much when I see women in relationships where they aren't being treated well, and they are accepting it, thinking that it's like, is this the end all be all? I'm always like, girl, somebody else is gonna want you and treat you well. And also, it's okay to be by yourself. Like, being by yourself sometimes is so much better, a lot of times is better than being in a relationship that's not serving you. So know that you are worthy of love. Um, Another one of my new favorite artists, she's not a new artist, but I've just discovered her, Cleo Soul. Um,
Mhm.
she has a song called You Are Loved. I'll add that to the list.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because it just really makes me sad that people, like, it's grown women still like, I told you, my Reiki client said it to me yesterday. She's 28 and she was like, I don't know if I'm worthy of love. And I was like, girl, can I hug you? Because yes,
Mm.
you are. Everyone is.
Mm.
So that would be it. And then
That
all the
was,
other stuff, when you love yourself and treat yourself well, and you know, you're looking out for yourself, all that other stuff will come.
I love it.
Mhm.
Well, Dominique Tate-Williams, thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for saying yes to this beautiful mission of empowering other women and girls. Thank you for coming to a Pink Bow experience, and we hope to have you again.
Well, thank you so much for asking. And it was a great, always great time chatting with you.
Thank you.